Chapter 101, Resurrection of the Officials, Part 2. Drea tilts her head slightly, but she doesn't argue. She knows better. Alex leans forward, resting his forearms on the desk. I'm going to start reviving my officials. It'll lighten your workload. Drea's eyes flicker with understanding, but there's no sign of relief, just quiet acknowledgement. That would be wise, Your Majesty. The kingdom is growing faster than expected. More hands would ensure efficiency. Alex chuckles. So you do think I've been overworking you? Drea's lips twitch into the faintest of smiles. I would never say such a thing, Your Majesty. Alex shakes his head in amusement before his expression turns serious. Prepare the palace. Soon, we'll be welcoming some old faces back to life. Drea bows slightly. Understood. Alex leans back in his chair, his gaze settling on Drea. But first, tell me, how many gold coins do we have right now? Drea doesn't hesitate. With the two cities combined, we currently have over 300,000 gold coins. I already allocated 100,000 for development, so that leaves you with over 200,000 at your disposal, Your Majesty. Alex nods, satisfied. That should be enough money. Without wasting any more time, Alex stands. In an instant, the space around him distorts, and with a pulse of dark energy, he vanishes from his chamber. He reappears deep underground, in the resurrection room, a vast hall hidden beneath the palace. The air here is thick, heavy with an ancient power that lingers like a silent whisper. The walls are made of dark stone, their surfaces carved with intricate patterns of forgotten magic. Faint red luminescence pulses through the veins of the rock, casting eerie shadows that shift unnaturally. At the room's center stands the resurrection altar, a massive black stone slab, covered in glowing runes that pulse with deep crimson light. The moment Alex steps forward, the runes react, brightening as if recognizing his presence. A low hum resonates through the chamber. Alex places a hand on the altar. Immediately, a wave of energy rushes through him. The runes flicker, their crimson glow intensifying as Alex channels the gold coins into the altar. The energy surges outward, filling the chamber with a deep, resonant hum. One by one, the revival process begins. A dark mist rises from the altar, swirling violently before condensing into a physical form. The first figure solidifies, a towering, reptilian monster clad in heavy robes, his emerald-green scales gleaming under the dim light. His sharp, calculating eyes flick open. Lyric, Minister of Finance, Alex announces, watching as the newly revived official kneels before him. Your Majesty, Lyric breathes, his voice a deep, gravelly rumble. Thank you for reviving me. Alex nods. Your expertise is needed again. The kingdom has grown, and I require someone I can trust to oversee its economy. Lyric presses a clawed fist to his chest. It will be as you command. Before he can say more, the altar pulses again, and another figure emerges. This time, a slender, silver-furred beastkin takes shape. His piercing blue eyes dart around the chamber as if assessing everything in an instant. Valen, Minister of Intelligence, Alex states. Valen exhales sharply, flexing his claws before kneeling. Your Majesty, it seems much has changed. Alex smirks. A lot. I trust you'll get up to speed quickly? Of course, Valen replies smoothly. Information is my trade, after all. Another surge of power. The next figure forms, a hulking, dark-skinned ogre with 4 arms, his muscular body wrapped in ceremonial armor. His deep-set red eyes lock onto Alex as he drops to one knee. Thano, Minister of Infrastructure, Alex declares. Thano thumps his massive fist against his chest. It is an honor to serve again, Your Majesty. Tell me, what do you need built? Alex chuckles. You'll find plenty of work waiting for you. One after another, the officials continue to return. A hunched, bat-like humanoid with leathery wings and sharp, beady eyes, Morik, Minister of Commerce. A 3-eyed serpent-like being, his movements fluid and hypnotic, Cisari, Minister of Foreign Affairs. With each revival, Alex feels the weight of responsibility shifting, the burden of governance no longer solely on his shoulders. As the last of the officials kneel before him, he surveys them, satisfaction settling in his chest. "Welcome back," he says, his voice calm yet firm. The ministers kneel before him, their gazes filled with a mix of reverence and quiet determination. Alex lets the silence linger for a moment before speaking. "As you all can see," he begins, his voice steady, "in the last war all of you died, and we hit rock bottom." A heavy stillness fills the chamber. The memories of their deaths, the destruction of their kingdom, and the fall of their people flicker in their eyes. Even those who pride themselves on their composure, like Valen and Cesare, can't hide the flicker of emotions crossing their faces. "But things have changed," Alex continues. "Right now, the kingdom has 2 cities and over 300,000 residents. It's not what we once had, but it's a foundation, a new beginning." Lyric, the finance minister, inclines his head. 300,000. His reptilian eyes gleam with thought. Considering the rapid recovery, the economic structure must be unstable. "We'll need to regulate trade carefully to prevent inflation." Morik, the bat-like minister of commerce, clicks his tongue. "I assume human merchants are still active in our lands?" Alex nods. "Yes. Delon City, in particular, is attracting attention." Alex glances at Thano. "Your department has the most immediate task. We need infrastructure to support our growth. Housing, roads, fortifications, everything." Thano grins, cracking his massive knuckles. "No complaints here, Your Majesty. Just give me workers, and I'll have cities rising in no time." The ministers exchange brief glances, their unspoken communication clear. They may have just returned from the dead, but their instincts remain sharp. Alex exhales, his gaze sweeping over them. "You all know what needs to be done. Get to work." One by one they bow. "As you command, Your Majesty." Without hesitation, they leave the resurrection room, each one already forming plans, strategies, and adjustments for the new reality of the kingdom. Alex watches them go, a small smirk playing at his lips. They'll adapt. They always do. Chapter 102, Kraz City. The next day, morning arrives, and the kingdom hums with renewed energy. The ministers, freshly revived yet already fully immersed in their duties, work with an efficiency. A knock sounds at his door. "Enter," Alex calls. Drea steps inside, bowing slightly. "Your Majesty," reports from the ministers. She hands him a neatly stacked set of documents. Alex flips through them, but before he can read the details, Drea speaks again. "Thano and Lyric are especially efficient," she notes. "Thano has already organized a workforce for infrastructure projects, and Lyric is implementing strict economic policies to stabilize trade and tax collection." Alex smirks. "Good. I expected nothing less." Down in the administrative halls, Thano towers over a large table, surrounded by new talented monsters. "We'll prioritize road expansions first," he rumbles, pointing at a map. His massive fingers tap key locations. "If we improve transport routes between Delon and Mizorn, trade efficiency will increase." A lean goblin nods eagerly. "And that will lower the strain on the merchants, allowing more goods to circulate faster." "Exactly," Thano grunts. "After that, we reinforce the city walls. The humans might be watching, but if they ever get stupid, I want them to see fortifications they know they can't break through." The room fills with approving murmurs. Thano's practical approach reassures everyone present. This isn't just expansion, it's preparation for whatever comes next. Meanwhile, in the finance ministry, Lyric scans financial records with razor-sharp focus. His emerald green scales shimmer under the candlelight as his clawed hand scribbles notes. A subordinate, a harpy accountant, shifts nervously. "Minister, about the tax adjustments." "They stay," Lyric states firmly, not looking up. "If we lessen taxes too soon, we risk destabilizing growth. Keep them balanced." We need to build a treasury reserve before we make concessions. The harpy swallows and nods. Understood. Lyric finally looks up, his piercing gaze settling on her. Do you doubt my decision? And no, sir. Just making sure I understood correctly.
Lyric hoofs, satisfied.
Good. The kingdom is recovering, but rapid growth comes with risk. Stability is more important than reckless expansion. Back in Alex's chamber, Alex leans back in his chair after reviewing the reports. Everything is going smoothly, better than he anticipated. Alex taps his fingers against the armrest of his chair, his thoughts shifting toward the next step. I guess it's time to announce my kingdom to the world. Mizorn and Delan are already under his control. His ministers are handling internal affairs well. Now it's time to establish their presence beyond their borders. Without hesitation, Alex calls out, Valen! A brief silence follows before the air in front of him distorts. Shadows ripple and twist until a tall, silver-furred beastkin materializes, his piercing blue eyes already locked onto Alex. You called, Your Majesty? Valen's voice is smooth, carrying a quiet sharpness. Alex meets his gaze. Spread the word. We will now announce our kingdom's name to the world. Make sure this news reaches the three kingdoms as well. Valen's bows. As you command. I will ensure the message is delivered far and wide. Without another word, he vanishes, his form dissolving into wisps of shadow. Alex leans back, exhaling slowly. Let's see how the world reacts. Inside the grand palace of Eldoria, King Edric sits in his chamber, a heavy sigh escaping his lips as he reads the report in his hands. The seal of the intelligence division marks the parchment, its contents clear and undeniable. The monsters occupying Mizorn and Delan have declared their own kingdom, Eravaris. Edric rubs his temple, his expression weary. This wasn't entirely unexpected, but hearing it confirmed feels like a sharp blow nonetheless. A deep voice interrupts his thoughts. Your Majesty, Marshal Walrick says, standing tall in his polished armor. Do you want me to station all our soldiers in Kraz City? It's close to Delan. If those monsters expand further, Kraz will surely be their next target. Edric sets the report down and shakes his head. No, there's no need. His voice is calm but firm. We need to focus our strength on defending Veristan City. Walrick frowns slightly but doesn't argue. Veristan is valuable, yes, but if we lose Kraz, it will weaken our defenses in the south. Edric exhales slowly, his gaze heavy with thought. We don't have a choice, Walrick, he says, his voice quieter but firm. We can only abandon Kraz City. Walrick stiffens. Your Majesty. They have a Tier 5 monster on their side. Edric cuts in, his expression grim. While we have none. The Marshal clenches his fists, his jaw tightening. He knows Edric is right. A Tier 5 monster alone is enough to wipe out an entire battalion. Holding Kraz against such a force would be suicide. Edric leans back in his chair, fingers steepled. Veristan, on the other hand, has a Tier 5 defensive spell from the Mage Tower. If they come for us, that's where we make our stand. Walrick exhales sharply, his shoulders tense. Abandoning Kraz means giving them more ground. It means delaying an inevitable loss, Edric corrects. Kraz was a trade hub, but Veristan is different. If Eravaris expands further, they'll have to think twice before attacking it. The room falls into silence. The weight of the decision settles between them. Finally, Walrick nods, his expression dark. I'll oversee the evacuation of Kraz and reinforce Veristan immediately. Good. Edric's voice is steady, but there's no triumph in it. Only the cold calculation of survival. As Walrick turns to leave, Edric grips the armrest of his chair, his knuckles whitening. A monster kingdom, a Tier 5 force at their disposal, and we have nothing to match them. His gaze darkens. We need a way to fight back. The early morning mist clings to the ground as Sorin rides at the head of her force, the disciplined march of monsters echoing through the open plains. The city of Kraz rises in the distance, its modest walls a pale reflection of the grander fortifications of Dalan. Soren narrows her eyes. Too quiet. Chapter 103, Veristan City. She expected some resistance. Humans always clung stubbornly to their cities. But as they draw closer, there's no movement, no sign of soldiers reinforcing the gates. Then she sees it. A handful of guards stand atop the walls, their postures slumped. Above them, a white flag flutters weakly in the cold wind. Soren halts her mount, her crimson eyes flashing with suspicion. She raises a hand, signaling her forces to stop. Nasara beside her grunts. They surrendered already? Seems that way, Soren mutters, scanning the surroundings. She doesn't like it. Victory without a fight rarely feels like a victory at all. From the gates, a frail-looking man steps forward, dressed in hastily donned armor that barely fits. His voice wavers as he calls out, "We surrender! Kraz is yours." Soren studies him for a moment before nudging her beast forward. Her soldiers remain tense behind her, ready for any last-minute tricks. "Open the gates," she orders. The guards hesitate, then scramble to obey. As the gates creak open, Soren rides through first, eyes sweeping the near-empty streets. The city is eerily silent. Most of the buildings are intact, but the lack of people is glaring. "Where is the city lord?" she asks coldly, her gaze locking onto the man in front of her. The guard swallows hard. "Gone. Fled with most of the citizens. Only those who couldn't leave remain." Soren scoffs. "Cowards." She gestures, and her forces begin to spread through the streets, securing key locations with efficiency. There's no resistance, no hidden soldiers waiting to ambush them. Kraz has been abandoned in everything but name. A shadowy figure slips up beside her. One of her spies. "We confirmed it. Most of the humans evacuated days ago. The Ralthian army pulled back to reinforce Veristan." Soren clicks her tongue in annoyance. "So they're smarter than I thought." She turns to her forces. "Secure the town hall, the gold coins, and any supply caches left behind. We're fortifying this place." As her soldiers move through the city, ensuring their new territory is secured, Soren turns to the shadow still standing beside her. "Tell me about Veristan," she orders, her voice sharp and to the point. "What kind of city are we dealing with?" The shadow, a cloaked figure with a faintly distorted presence, bows slightly. "Veristan is nothing like Kraz. It is one of the strongest border cities under the Ralthian kingdom's rule. Unlike Kraz, which was mainly a trade hub, Veristan is a fortress city." Soren crosses her arms, listening intently. "Go on." The shadow continues, his tone calm but informative. "The city is built on elevated terrain, giving them a natural defensive advantage. Its walls are thick, reinforced with enchanted stone, and there is only one main gate. The rest is sheer cliffs. The Ralthian army has stationed at least 50,000 soldiers there right now, including elite knights and battle mages." Soren frowns slightly. "And their leadership?" "Veristan is now commanded by Marshal Walrick, a peak tier 4 knight. He is a defensive specialist, known for holding ground against overwhelming forces. Reports indicate he is cautious but extremely disciplined." Soren exhales, processing the information. "So they are planning to stop us in this city." The shadow nods. "The most significant threat is the defensive magic cast over the city. The Mage Tower in Ralthian has placed a Tier 5 barrier spell around Veristan. It greatly reduces the effectiveness of direct attacks and negates large-scale magic bombardments." "Indeed," the shadow agrees. "Breaking through their defenses will not be as simple as marching in. Even with General Varkas, it will take time to destroy it." Soren listens in silence, her crimson eyes fixed on the city's direction. A heavily fortified city, a seasoned commander, and a powerful barrier spell. Veristan won't fall as easily as Kraz. She turns her gaze back to the shadow. "Send word to General Varkas immediately." The shadow bows slightly. "What message should I deliver?" "Tell him we've secured Kraz without a fight, but Veristan is different. If we're to take it, we need him to attack directly." His strength will be crucial in breaking their defenses. The shadow inclines his head. Understood. I will ensure he receives the message without delay. Hours pass, and the air grows thick with anticipation. Soren stands atop the city walls of Kraz, watching the distant horizon. Then, a gust of wind stirs the air, carrying with it the scent of blood and wild earth. A shadow streaks across the sky. A hulking figure descends, his form silhouetted against the setting sun. With a controlled yet powerful landing, General Varkas touches down. The lycanthrope general straightens, his eyes gleaming like molten fire beneath his thick, crimson mane. His presence alone radiates power. Commander Soren, Varkas rumbles, his deep voice carrying easily over the quiet city. I received the report. Soren steps forward, offering a respectful nod. Yes, sir. We have secured Kraz without a fight, but Veristan will not be so easy. We need your strength if we want to conquer it. Varkas exhales through his nose, sharp fangs flashing as he smirks. A fortress city, strong defenses, and a Tier 5 barrier spell. He rolls his shoulders, the crack of his bones audible. Now that sounds like a proper battle. Nasara, standing nearby, grins. You're going to love this one, General. They're dug in tight, ready to fight to the last. Varkas chuckles, a deep, rumbling sound. Good. I've had enough of cities that crumble without a fight. His gaze shifts to the shadowy figure standing silently beside Soren. The shadow straightens under the general's piercing eyes. What about Valeth? Did he succeed in infiltrating the city? Varkas asks, his tone curious. The shadow hesitates for a moment. No, General Varkas. We've received reports that no matter what they attempt, they can't get past the barrier. It's as if the magic itself detects any attempt to bypass it. Don't report this to His Majesty. Varkas commands, his voice steady but firm. I'm sure His Majesty has an item that could shatter that barrier effortlessly. But if we can't do this much, we aren't worthy of being his subordinates. Chapter 104, We Do Not Kneel. After that, they begin their preparations. Soren, Nasara, Thurn, and Veltha move swiftly, issuing commands to their troops. Each takes charge of their respective forces, ensuring their soldiers are fully armed and ready for the coming battle. Groth, the battle mage commander, gathers his spellcasters in the city's plaza. The air hums with magic as they refine their incantations, preparing for large-scale assaults and counterspells against Veristan's barrier. Varkas oversees everything from a high vantage point, his sharp eyes tracking the organized chaos below. He watches as supplies are distributed, siege weapons are assembled, and warriors steel themselves for war. As noon approaches, the preparations near completion. The city of Kraz, once eerily silent, now hums with the energy of an army on the move. Then, at last, Varkas raises a clawed hand. Enough waiting, he growls. His voice carries over the gathered forces, heavy with authority. We march. The command ripples through the ranks like a spark igniting dry grass. Soren mounts her beast, her crimson eyes fixed on the path ahead. Nasara and Veltha do the same, while Thurn and Groth fall into formation with their troops. The ground trembles as thousands of soldiers begin their advance, moving as one unified force toward Veristan. After some time, they finally arrive at Veristan's towering walls. Marshal Walrick stands atop the battlements, his expression grim as he watches the enemy forces march forward. Even though he commands 50,000 soldiers, outnumbering the enemy's 30,000, the sheer bloodlust radiating from the approaching army is overwhelming. His men shift uneasily, gripping their weapons tighter, sensing the difference in battle intent. Then his gaze lifts, and his breath stills. Floating above the battlefield is the lycanthrope general. Varkas hovers effortlessly, his crimson mane wild in the wind, his eyes burning like molten gold. The aura around him is suffocating, primal, and untamed. Even from this distance, Walrick can feel it pressing down on him like an unseen weight. Walrick clenches his fists, reminding himself that he is no weakling. At level 499, He is merely a step away from breaking into Tier 5. And yet, that final step is a chasm he cannot yet cross. The difference between a peak Tier 4 and an actual Tier 5 is like comparing a sturdy wall to an unbreakable mountain. Beside him, his 5 generals stand firm, each a Tier 4 powerhouse in their own right. One of them chuckles, attempting to lighten the tension. "Marshal, just relax." The man says with a smirk, "I can see you shaking even from here." Walrick exhales sharply, eyes still locked onto Varka's. "If you're so confident, why don't you take the lead when the fighting starts?" Another general, a stocky man with a scar across his jaw, crosses his arms. "No need to worry. The enemy only has one Tier 4 Thier commander. With the 4 of us available, we can help you fight that monster." Walrick snorts, turning to face them fully. His gaze sharpens. "Are you guys sure you want to fight a Tier 5 monster? Just the graze of a Tier 5 skill will kill any of you instantly." The generals exchange glances, their earlier confidence dimming just slightly. One of them, a lanky man with graying hair, shrugs. "We don't have much of a choice, do we? If we let you fight alone, the army's morale will shatter. Besides," another one adds, rolling his shoulders, "we're not planning to go toe-to-toe with him. We'll support you, create openings, and buy some time." A third general, the youngest among them, tightens his grip on his sword. "If we fight smart, we can buy time. Time for a surprise." He exhales slowly. "We might not be strong enough to kill him, but we can surely do that." A sudden gust of wind howls across the battlefield as Varkas slowly descends, his massive frame casting a long shadow over the soldiers below. Then, his deep, rumbling voice cuts through the tension. "Humans," Varkas drawls, his tone laced with both mockery and authority. "His Majesty is merciful. He offers you a choice. Surrender now and be spared, or stand against us and be slaughtered to the last." A ripple of unease spreads through the ranks of Ralthian soldiers. Even the most seasoned warriors grip their weapons tighter, feeling the weight of the lycanthrope's words. Some glance toward Walrick, searching for reassurance. Walrick steps forward, his face hardening. "And if we surrender, what then?" Varkas grins, his fangs glinting in the sunlight. "Then you will be given a new purpose under His Majesty's rule. Resist, and your corpses will serve as a message to the rest of your kingdom." He raises a clawed hand, gesturing lazily toward the city. "Veristan will be ours either way. The only question is whether you'll be standing when the flames rise." Walrick meets his gaze, unflinching. "The soldiers of Ralthian Kingdom does not kneel." Varkas chuckles, a low, guttural sound that rumbles like distant thunder. "Good," he murmurs. "I was hoping you'd say that." Varkas raises his hand, his claws crackling with dark crimson energy. The air grows heavy, thick with an oppressive force that makes the very ground tremble. A deep, guttural growl rumbles from his throat as he invokes his bloodline's power. Crimson Tyrant's grasp. A massive, glowing red lycanthrope hand materializes in the sky above. Its size is quite big. The weight of its presence alone sends waves of pressure crashing down on the battlefield. Walrick and his generals freeze. Their breaths grow ragged as an overwhelming sense of dread washes over them. It feels as if an entire mountain is descending from the heavens, threatening to crush them where they stand. The soldiers below fall to their knees, some gasping for air, others gripping their weapons in a futile attempt to fight against the suffocating force. Then, with a deafening roar, the crimson hand begins its descent. "Brace yourselves," Walrick shouts, tightening his grip on his halberd. His body screams at him to run, but he plants his feet firmly, refusing to show weakness. Just before the monstrous attack makes contact, the city's defensive barrier activates. A radiant golden dome materializes, its surface shimmering as ancient runes ignite with power. The impact is cataclysmic. As the crimson hand collides with the barrier, a shockwave erupts outward, flattening trees and sending soldiers flying backward. The ground cracks, and the very air vibrates from the sheer force of the clash. Fine fractures spread across the golden dome like spiderwebs, the powerful defenses barely able to withstand the overwhelming might of a Tier 5 skill. Gasps of horror echo from the soldiers within as they watch their city's last line of defense begin to fail. But just as suddenly as the cracks appear, they begin to mend. The golden light pulses, and in an instant, the barrier restores itself as if nothing had happened. The crimson hand flickers before shattering into nothingness, its energy spent. A tense silence falls over the battlefield. Then, like a trigger being pulled, one of the human general raises her staff high. Now, mages, unleash hell. With a unified roar, the city's spellcasters unleash a barrage of magical attacks. Fireballs, lightning bolts, and beams of raw arcane energy streak through the sky, converging upon Varkas and his forces. Defensive formation. Now, Nasara's voice cuts through the battlefield like a blade. The front lines of the monster army move in perfect synchronization. Towering warriors with massive shields slam them into the ground. A deep, resonating boom echoing as they activate their defensive skills. Layers of shimmering energy form over their bodies, and the very earth beneath them solidifies, reinforcing their stance. The sky erupts with fire and lightning as the human mages' spells rain down, but the monstrous vanguard does not waver. Explosions ripple across their ranks, yet their defenses hold firm, absorbing the devastating impact. Smoke and dust swirl, momentarily obscuring the battlefield. Then, as the wind clears the haze, the monstrous shield-bearers remain standing, unshaken. Nasara smirks. Ha! Not bad. Now retaliate. At his command, Groth raises his staff high, his eyes flashing with raw magic. Mages! Counterattack! Show them our might! A deafening surge of power erupts from the monstrous army's side. Dark energy bolts, searing flames, and streaks of violet lightning crackle through the air, answering the human barrage with overwhelming force. The sky erupts in chaos. Spells clash midair, exploding in violent bursts of light and smoke. The battlefield trembles under the force of the exchange, but the city's golden barrier, though flickering, still holds. Then a soldier comes to Walrick. Marshal, it's time. Walrick's eyes narrow. Are you certain? The mages in the tower have begun casting. The barrier will collapse in moments. You must hold the enemy until we are finished. A heavy silence follows. Then Walrick exhales sharply and grips his sword and shield. Understood. Tell them that we'll hold the line. The moment the golden barrier vanishes, the battlefield freezes. For a heartbeat, neither side moves. Then Varkas acts. With a feral snarl, the lycanthrope general vanishes from sight, a blur of motion too fast for the human eye to track. Boom! He lands in the heart of the city like a meteor, the impact sending a shockwave through the streets. Stone shatters beneath his feet, and buildings tremble from the force of his landing. Dust and debris swirl around him as he straightens, his golden eyes gleaming with anticipation. Before he can take another step, a figure streaks toward him. Clang! Walrick's shield slams into Varkas's raised arm, the impact ringing out like a thunderclap. The sheer force of the collision sends a ripple through the ground, cracking the stone beneath their feet. Varkas grins, unfazed. You humans are quite brave. His voice rumbles, thick with amusement. Chapter 105. The Struggle of the Weak. The four generals waste no time. The scarred general, Orin, swings his massive battle axe in a brutal arc, aiming for Varkas's exposed ribs. The strike connects, but instead of flesh, the blade meets something far denser, bone-like armor hidden beneath his fur. Sparks fly as the axe skids off. He didn't even leave a shallow wound. Ha! Tough bastard, Orin mutters, yanking his weapon back. The lanky general, Jupus, steps in next, his twin daggers flashing. He moves like a wind, his blades seeking weak points in Varkas's defense. He strikes at the joints, the tendons, the unarmored patches of fur, each cut precise, calculated. Varkas moves with supernatural speed, twisting his body to avoid the worst of the attacks. Not bad, he growls. Then, with a sudden burst of strength, he swipes at Jupus with his massive claw. Jupus barely dodges. The tips of Varkas's claws graze his chest plate, carving deep gashes into the steel. He grits his teeth and rolls away, breathing hard. The youngest general, Elaine, channels a surge of magic into her sword. Crackling blue energy ignites along the blade's edge. With a powerful leap, she swings downward, aiming for Varkas's shoulder. Varkas doesn't move. He stands still, his golden eyes watching as Elaine's enchanted sword descends upon him. The blade crackles with raw energy, humming with the power of a Tier 4 skill. Thunderfang strike. The moment the sword connects, an explosion of blue lightning erupts. The sheer force of the impact sends shockwaves rippling through the air, shaking the surrounding buildings. A blinding flash engulfs the area, forcing soldiers to shield their eyes. When the light fades, Elaine stumbles back, her breathing ragged. Her sword is still crackling with residual energy, the scent of burnt ozone thick in the air. Varkas remains unmoved. He stands there, completely unharmed. The spot where Elaine's blade struck, his shoulder, bears not a single wound. Not a burn mark, not a scratch. He rolls his shoulder lazily, as if shaking off a speck of dust. Elaine's eyes widen.
Impossible.
Before she can react, Varkas moves. His hand snaps out like a viper, seizing Elaine by the throat. He lifts her effortlessly off the ground, his grip tightening just enough to make her struggle. That was cute, he chuckles, his golden eyes gleaming. But let me show you the difference between us. Before he can finish, a burning wave of power surges through the air. Wrath of the War God. Orin charges, his entire body engulfed in a furious red aura. His axe glows a deep, blood red, and as he swings, the sheer force of the strike warps the air around it. This is his strongest Tier 4 skill, an attack that has cleaved through castle walls. Varkas simply raises a hand. The axe connects with his palm. A deafening shockwave explodes outward, sending debris flying in every direction. The sheer force of Orin's swing causes the ground beneath them to shatter. Soldiers are forced to shield themselves from the blast. But Varkas remains completely still. He doesn't even flinch. His hand grips the edge of the axe, stopping it in place with terrifying ease. Orin grits his teeth, pushing with all his strength, veins bulging. But it's useless. That all you got? Varkas asks, a flicker of disappointment in his voice. Then, without warning, he wrenches the axe out of Orin's grip and swings his other arm. Boom! Orin is sent hurtling backward, crashing through a ruined stone wall and disappearing into the rubble. Orin! Jupus snarls. He moves in a blur, twin daggers coated in a dark, venomous sheen as he activates his own Tier 4 skill. Phantom Serpent's Dance. Jupus's movements become unpredictable, his speed doubling as afterimages of himself flicker around Varkas. His daggers strike from every direction, targeting Varkas's joints, his neck, his eyes, any vulnerable point. His claws swipe through the air with inhuman precision. Every strike Jupus makes is intercepted, his daggers meeting Varkas's claws in rapid succession. Sparks fly as steel clashes against his indestructible flesh. Jupus's attacks blur together, too fast for normal eyes to follow. But Varkas, he sees everything. Then he steps forward. Jupus barely has time to react. A fist slams into his gut. Jupus gasps, blood spurting from his mouth as he is lifted off the ground. The sheer force of the blow sends a shockwave through his body, his ribs audibly cracking. Then Varkas swings again, sending him skidding across the battlefield. He doesn't get up. The final general, a powerful mage named Celian, raises his staff, his expression grim. If brute force won't work, then let's even the odds. Celian slams his staff into the ground. Arcane symbols flare to life beneath him, golden energy surging outward like a tidal wave. Divine Embrace. A radiant glow spreads across Walric and the remaining generals. Their wounds begin closing, their strength replenishing. More than that, a golden aura coats their weapons, enhancing their attacks. Their speed, their power, their endurance, everything is pushed beyond their limits. Varkas watches, intrigued. A tear for buff spell. He tilts his head. All right, let's see if it makes a difference. Walrick grips his sword tighter. The golden energy pulses through his veins, filling him with renewed strength. This is our last chance, he roars. Everyone, attack together. Elaine, still gasping for breath, nods. Orin, battered but not broken, grips his axe once more. Jupus, despite his cracked ribs, forces himself to stand. Celian begins chanting another spell. They move as one. Elaine strikes first. Her sword blazes with golden lightning, the power of the divine embrace amplifying her thunderfang strike tenfold. Orin follows up, his axe shrouded in fiery energy as he swings with all his might. Jupus vanishes in a flicker of shadow, reappearing behind Varkas, his daggers flashing toward the lycanthrope's spine. And Walrick activates his strongest skill. Judgment Breaker. His sword ignites in pure, searing white energy, the very air vibrating from the sheer power contained within. He lunges, aiming straight for Varkas's heart. The attacks land. A massive explosion engulfs the battlefield, golden light flooding the streets. The sheer force of their combined assault sends shockwaves tearing through buildings, shattering stone and glass. The ground itself cracks under the impact. Chapter 106, Tier 5 Spells, Oblivion Spear. For a moment, just a moment, hope flickers in their eyes. Then the dust clears, and Varkas stands there. The only sign that he was even hit: thin, shallow scratches across his arms and chest. His golden eyes burn with excitement. Now that actually tickled. Elaine stares in disbelief. No way. As the golden light fades, dust and debris swirl through the air. Soldiers squint through the haze, waiting, hoping to see their enemy fall. But as the dust settles, a massive, unmoving silhouette emerges. Varkas still stands. His eyes gleam with something between amusement and disappointment. His fur, once pristine, now bears faint scorch marks. A thin, almost imperceptible cut decorates his cheek, a single drop of dark blood trickling down. He touches the wound absent-mindedly, then chuckles. There's still more. His deep, rumbling voice carries across the battlefield, filled with quiet mockery. Walrick feels his stomach drop. He can see it in the others, the exhaustion, the creeping despair. Even with their strongest attacks, they've only managed to scratch. Elaine stumbles back, her hands shaking around her sword. We gave it everything. Orin grits his teeth, sweat dripping down his brow. That monster is still standing like it was nothing. Jupus, despite the pain in his ribs, forces a smirk. At least we made him bleed. That's something, right? Walrick grips his sword tightly. His body is screaming at him, his muscles burning with exhaustion. He refuses to let it show. We're not done yet, he growls. Then, the air shifts. A deep, resonant hum echoes across the battlefield. The ground trembles as an invisible force pulls at the air itself, drawing all mana toward a single point. Every soldier, every monster, every living being on the battlefield feels it. A force beyond comprehension, an oppressive weight pressing down on their very souls. Walrick's eyes widen. The Mage Tower, high above the battlefield. The towering spire hums with raw, concentrated mana. The sky above it darkens, swirling with storm clouds. But this is no ordinary storm. Streaks of violet lightning arc across the heavens, twisting unnaturally as if alive. The very air vibrates, charged with an immense, terrifying energy. Celian staggers, his breath hitching. They did it. The Tier 5 spell is complete. Varkas watches the tower, eyes narrowing slightly. Oh! The hum intensifies. Arcane symbols blaze into existence across the surface of the tower, ancient runes pulsing with unimaginable power. Mana is no longer merely being drawn in, it is being devoured, sucked into a singularity forming at the tower's peak. A voice, deep and resonant, echoes across the battlefield. It is not a single voice, but many layered, overlapping, the synchronized chant of dozens of mages speaking as one. The words are ancient, older than kingdoms, a language of pure magic. In the name of the first flame, in the shadow of the abyss, we call forth the judgment of the heavens. The sky darkens further. The swirling vortex above the mage tower expands, stretching across the battlefield. The very fabric of reality groans under the pressure of the spell. Lightning does not merely strike. It coils and writhes, seeking form, growing denser with each passing second. Varkas's amused expression falters ever so slightly. He does not fear magic, but he recognizes power. And this is something else. The chanting continues, rising in intensity. By the blood of the ancients, by the will of the stars, we unshackle the wrath long bound. The ground quakes violently. The air itself becomes difficult to breathe, as if all the mana in the world is being funneled into one singular point. Walric forces himself to stand despite the weight pressing down on him. His fingers tighten around his sword. This is beyond anything we've ever used before. Elaine stares up at the sky, sweat rolling down her temple. I've read about Tier 5 spells, but to witness one, Celian, still on the ground, manages a weak, knowing grin. Not just any Tier 5 spell. This one is destruction incarnate. Above the tower, the vortex of lightning begins to take shape. A colossal spear, formed of pure, condensed mana. It crackles with terrifying power, its very presence warping the sky around it. It is not fire, nor ice, nor light. This is something primal, something far older than mortal magic. A weapon of annihilation. The final words of the chant echo like a divine decree. Oblivion spear. The moment the words are spoken, the spell is unleashed. The spear descends. For a fraction of a second, time itself seems to stop. The world holds its breath. Then, a cataclysm. The battlefield is drowned in blinding light. The impact is unlike anything ever witnessed before. The sheer force of the descent fractures the very ground, shockwaves rippling outward with the force of 1,000 storms. The city trembles as buildings crumble under the weight of the energy released. Soldiers are flung back like leaves in a hurricane. And at the center of it all, Varkas. A deafening, defiant sound that echoes through the chaos. The Oblivion spear strikes. A blinding explosion engulfs the battlefield, swallowing everything in its path. The shockwave expands outward. For long, excruciating seconds, the world is nothing but light and fury. Then silence. Thick smoke blankets the battlefield. The once proud streets are reduced to molten craters. The land itself is scarred, burned black by the sheer force of the spell. The silence is deafening. Walric stares at the destruction, his breathing ragged. The battlefield, no, the very land itself, is unrecognizable. The sheer force of the spell has carved a massive crater into the earth, its edges still glowing with molten heat. The air is thick with ash and mana residue, distorting everything like a mirage. He swallows hard. His hands tremble. This is what a Tier 5 spell is. He finally understands. The reason he has never broken through, the reason so few ever do, is not a matter of talent, not a matter of training. It's because Tier 5 spells or skills is beyond human. Even standing near it, witnessing it with his own eyes, he can feel it. This power doesn't just require mastery. It requires something else entirely. Something more. Chapter 107. Keep no one alive. His grip loosens on his sword. A bitter realization settles in his chest. Can I even reach that level? He mutters under his breath. Elaine glances at him, but she has no answer. No one does. Then, the smoke shifts. A gust of wind rushes through the battlefield, parting the thick haze of destruction. And there, standing at the center of the devastation, is Varkas. He's alive. His massive frame is hunched forward. His claws dug into the scorched ground to keep himself upright. His fur, once pristine, is now singed and tattered. Blood drips from countless wounds, staining the cracked earth beneath him. His breathing is labored, his chest rising and falling in heavy, ragged motions. But his golden eyes burn brighter than ever. That, Varkas exhales, then grins, sharp and wild. That almost got me. He straightens slowly, the faint tremble in his limbs betraying the toll the spell has taken. His muscles pulse with residual energy, the lingering effects of the buffs he activated just in time. His Tier 4 reinforcement buffs. His singular Tier 5 enhancement. And, most crucially, his Bloodline's Tier 5 skill. His body has changed. His once dark fur now bears streaks of silver, crackling faintly with latent energy. His claws, longer and sharper, shimmer with a faint, unnatural glow. The air around him feels heavier, denser. More than just a beast. More than just a warrior. He breathes in deeply, the scent of scorched earth filling his lungs. Then he exhales, rolling his shoulders. That spell, something only a level 560+ being could conjure, and it's fucking hurt getting hit by it. Varkas thought. Walric watches, a cold pit forming in his stomach. Even after all of that, even after facing the full might of a Tier 5 annihilation spell, Varkas is still standing. Not unscathed, but alive. And worse, he looks excited. Elaine grips her sword tightly, her knuckles white. That thing. Just what is he? No one answers. Because at this moment they all feel it. The difference. The gap between them and Varkas. Varkas clenches his fists, his claws digging into his own palms. His entire body trembles. Not from pain, but from rage. He made a promise. A simple promise. I will not put myself in danger. His Majesty had ordered him. And yet here he is battered, burned, bloodied. By a bunch of humans who weren't even Tier 5. His fury boils over. And then he vanishes. A blur of motion. Faster than sight. Faster than thought. Before anyone can react. Shunk. Celian's head rolls across the scorched ground. His body remains standing for a fraction of a second before crumpling. Silence. Elaine lets out a strangled gasp. Jupus's eyes widen in horror. Orin stumbles back. Then, shunk. Jupus doesn't even have time to scream before his body is cleaved in two. Orin also died in seconds. 3 generals. Dead. Just like that. The battlefield stands frozen. Every soldier paralyzed by sheer terror. And then, stop! You fucking monster! Marshal Walric's roar cuts through the silence. He charges, sword raised, desperation and fury in his eyes. Varkas barely spares him a glance. With a flick of his wrist, his clawed hand swings. Boom! Walric is sent flying. His body slams into the ruined stone wall of a half-destroyed building, the impact loud enough to crack bone. He crumples to the ground, coughing blood. His entire body screams in agony. Walric forces himself to move, pushing through the agony. Every breath feels like fire in his lungs, but he doesn't stop. He can't. Not now. Not when the entire battlefield is crumbling into despair. With blood dripping from his lips, he lifts his head and roars. Retreat! His voice echoes across the ruins, raw and desperate. All units, fall back. Now! Soldiers snap out of their frozen terror. The moment the order registers, chaos erupts. Boots slam against shattered stone. Armor clanks as they turn and flee, scrambling over debris and bodies alike. Elaine hesitates, her trembling hands gripping her sword. Walric! Geo! He snarls, eyes locked onto the towering figure in front of him. Varkas watches, eyes flickering with amusement as the army scatters. They run well, he muses. Then he turns his gaze back to Walric, tilting his head. But you won't run? Walric plants his feet, his entire body pulsing with golden light. Every buff he has, every ounce of strength he can squeeze from his battered frame. A last stand. Even if it's just for seconds. He knows he can't win. But if he can hold enemy down, if he can give them time, that will be enough. He grips his sword with both hands, the runes along the blade igniting with violent energy. You! He spits blood onto the ground. You're not getting past me. Varkas watches him for a moment, head slightly tilted, as if trying to understand the sheer stubbornness in front of him. Then he exhales through his nose. His massive shoulders relax just a fraction, the tension in his claws easing. His eyes glint in the flickering light of the battlefield. Since you're so determined, he takes a step forward. The ground beneath his foot cracks. I'll kill you in one swift move. Walrick grits his teeth, every muscle in his body coiled tight. His aura flares violently, golden energy wrapping around his battered form like a final, desperate shield. His mind is racing, searching for anything, any opening, any chance. But Varkas moves first, faster than thought, a blur. And then, the world tilts. Walrick doesn't feel pain at first, just a sudden, terrifying lightness. Then, a wet thud. His body collapses to the ground. But his head, his vision spins and he sees it. The battlefield, the retreating soldiers, Elaine screaming his name. And then darkness. As the dust settles from Varkas's final strike, a figure appears beside him, swift and silent, her gaze assessing the scene. Her eyes linger on the smoldering battlefield, the scattered corpses, and the lingering remnants of the Tier 5 annihilation spell. General, Soren speaks evenly, her voice sharp yet composed. I saw that spell from the Mage Tower. I didn't think it would actually push you this far. Chapter 108. Building Blueprints. Varkas wipes the blood from his jaw, his eyes still sharp but calmer. Those humans. They were more troublesome than expected. Soren's gaze flicks to the retreating army. Soldiers are scattered, stumbling over debris, their faces painted with terror. Sir, should we go after the fleeing enemy? Varkas snorts, rolling his shoulders. There's no need. The shadows will take care of them. Elaine leads the retreat, her legs heavy, her mind numb. The image of her fallen companions, Celian, Jupis, Orin, and Walrick, flashes over and over. Her breaths come in ragged gasps, but she forces herself to keep running, leading the survivors. 5,000 soldiers, just a fraction of what they were, trailing behind her. Then shadows move, figures emerge, swift, ruthless, silent. One by one, the fleeing soldiers fall. Blood splatters, cries of desperation pierce the chaos. Elaine's heart pounds. She grits her teeth, forcing her eyes forward, until a presence materializes before her. Valeth. His cold, impassive gaze meets hers. His twin daggers gleam, still wet with blood. Elaine's heart tightens. Her grip on her sword trembles. Why? She screams, her voice strained and desperate. We're already retreating. Why do you have to go this far? Valeth's eyes narrow, his expression unyielding. Why? He repeats, his voice a chilling calm. We are at war. This is what happens when you make an enemy of His Majesty. Elaine's breath catches, her heart sinking as she stares into Valeth's unyielding eyes. There is no remorse, no hesitation. Only cold, calculated duty. News of the devastating defeat at Veristan City spreads swiftly across the Ralthian kingdom, carried by messengers whose faces are etched with dread. Rumors of Marshal Walrick's fall and the annihilation of 50,000 soldiers ripple like a shockwave. Panic grips the city closest to Veristan. Families abandon their homes, carts overflowing with hastily packed belongings. Streets once bustling with merchants and traders now echo with the clamor of fearful footsteps. Mothers clutch their children tightly, men hurriedly secure what little valuables they can carry, and guards struggle to maintain some semblance of order. They're coming. The monsters will come here next. A man shouts, his voice thick with fear. Veristan fell. Not a single one of them made it back. A woman wails. Inside the royal palace, in the grandeur of the royal chamber, King Edric slumps on his throne. His face is ashen, his fingers digging into the gilded armrests. He stares blankly at the ground, his mind grappling with disbelief. No, how did this happen? Edric's voice trembles, hollow and strained. We poured everything into Veristan. Resources, soldiers, our greatest mages. And still we lost? Not a single soldier survived. Beside him, Queen Nephia stands silently. Her hand rests gently on his shoulder, a steady presence amidst the storm of despair. Though her expression remains composed, her grip on Edric tightens, grounding him. Edric! She begins softly, but there is no continuation, no assurance she can offer. What words could mend the shattering truth before them? Edric's gaze hardens, frustration bubbling beneath his grief. His fists clench, knuckles whitening. Our kingdom, our people, if 50,000 soldiers could not hold them back, then what chance do we have? Queen Nephia moves to face him, her eyes searching his. We still stand, she whispers firmly. Ralphian still stands. As long as we do, there is a chance. Edric's expression falters, the weight of his doubt bearing down on him. For a moment, silence fills the chamber, heavy and suffocating. Then, Nephia's voice breaks through gently, yet resolute. Husband, what if we try to speak with them? What if we invite the king of the monsters and seek a truce? Perhaps there is a way to end this peacefully. Edric's eyes widen slightly, surprise flickering across his face. A truce? With them? After all we've done to the monsters over the years. Slaughtering their kind, pushing them back, making them our slaves. I don't think they would consider peace now, when they have every reason to seek revenge. Nephia meets his gaze firmly. And yet, if we do nothing, what future is left for Ralphian? If there is even the slightest chance that a dialogue could save our people, shouldn't we take it? Isn't it worth trying? He sighs heavily. Even if we wanted to, even if we reached out, would they listen? What reason would they have to trust us now? To forgive us, when they hold every advantage? Nephia's grip on his arm strengthens. I don't know, she admits quietly. But I know that if we do nothing, we condemn our people to death. If there is a chance, however small, we owe it to them to try. Edric closes his eyes, a pained expression crossing his face. The thought of kneeling before the monsters, seeking peace, goes against every instinct he has as a king. But the faces of his people, their fear, their desperation, press on his heart. Send out a messenger, he finally says, his voice strained. Extend the offer. If the king of monsters refuses, then we prepare for the worst. Nephia's shoulders ease slightly, a glimmer of hope softening her gaze. Thank you, Edric, for considering it. Inside his work chamber, Alex leans back in his chair, his eyes fixed on the transparent floating screen before him. The golden numbers 1,500,000 gold coins gleam brightly. The spoils from Veristan's city's fall have added a significant boost to his resources. Who should I revive? Alex mutters to himself, fingers tapping rhythmically on the desk. Names and faces of powerful figures flash through his mind, warriors of immense strength, mages capable of calling forth disaster with their spells, strategists who had aided him greatly. The power to bring any of them back is in his grasp. No. I should use this money to build something. He muses, his gaze narrowing. To strengthen the cities, to give them purpose. He has 4 cities now under his banner. The system can build upon them as long as he has blueprints and gold coins. In his system inventory, countless building blueprints sit untouched. Standing, Alex pulls up the map of his growing kingdom on the screen. Each city marked, his capital, Mizorn, Veristand, Delan, Kraz. Each unique, but undefined. They need identity, a reason to thrive beyond just serving as territories. Chapter 109. New Look of His 4-City, Part 1. After settling on his plans for each city's development, Alex calls for Thano. As he waits, he recalls the nature of the blueprints within his system inventory. Blueprints have distinct rarities, bronze at the lowest, followed by iron, silver, gold, diamond, and the rarest of them all, divine. Divine blueprints are so rare that out of millions of players in the game, there are only 1,000 in total owned by players, more precious than even divine items. Alex doesn't have a divine blueprint. The odds of obtaining one are nearly non-existent. They drop randomly from bosses or dungeons, pure luck. Furthermore, Iron Tier blueprints and above require a builder to construct, which is why Thanos' expertise is necessary. A firm knock on the chamber doors pulls Alex from his thoughts. Enter, he calls. Thanos steps inside, a tall, robust man with a composed demeanor. His neatly tied gray hair and sharp eyes reflect years of experience managing constructions and urban planning. Your Majesty, Thano bows slightly. You called for me? Yes, Thano. I have plans for our cities. Alex begins, looking at the floating screen displaying the kingdom's map. I want each city to have its own identity. I've been sitting on these blueprints for too long, and it's time to put them to use. Thano steps closer, studying the screen. A wise choice, Your Majesty. Our cities need a foundation to thrive, something beyond just military strength. Exactly, Alex nods. I want Mizorn to be a center of everything. A great city, where you can do anything. For Veristand, an academy to train mage. The third city, Dalan, will become an artisan city, a place known for craftsmanship and creating valuable artifacts. And Kraz, a trade hub with a grand market. Thano listens intently, his eyes sharp. Ambitious, but achievable with your resources, Your Majesty. However, the construction of these will require skilled workers, materials, and time. Some of the higher-tier blueprints, iron and above, will need my oversight to ensure efficiency. That's why I need you, Alex says. I have the blueprints and the gold. I need you to coordinate the workforce and ensure these cities develop according to this vision. Thanos' lips curve into a slight smile. Leave it to me, Your Majesty. I'll begin organizing the builders and resources immediately. After Thano leaves, Alex returns to his seat, his thoughts still lingering on the ambitious plans for his cities. He barely has a moment to collect himself when another knock sounds at the door. Enter, Alex says. The door opens and Cisari steps inside. Cisari's presence carries an air of sophistication. Her eyes glimmer with intelligence, and her long, sleek black hair is tied in an elegant knot. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Cisari's insight into diplomacy and politics is unmatched. Your Majesty, Cisari begins with a respectful bow. I bring news from the Ralthian Kingdom. They've requested a peace talk. They wish to discuss terms of truce. Alex leans back in his chair, fingers interlaced as he contemplates the message. A peace talk, huh? Cisari studies his expression carefully. Should we accept it, Your Majesty? After a brief pause, Alex meets her gaze. What do you think, Cisari? How should we approach this? Cisari's lips curl thoughtfully. Your Majesty, while accepting the truce could allow us to focus on strengthening our kingdom and solidifying our gains, there is also merit in pushing them further, forcing them into a corner where they have no choice but to become a subject state. We hold the upper hand, and many of our citizens demand retribution after years of oppression and slaughter. Alex nods slowly. The weight of history hangs heavy, the suffering of the monsters in this world, enslaved, hunted, and treated as little more than vermin by the human kingdoms. The momentum of victory is with them now, and the monsters who have suffered for so long look to him for justice. His thoughts drift to the refugees monsters who have fled from Ralthian, Ordea, and Valgros to find safety in his lands. Their faces, scarred by fear and loss, flash through his mind. They don't just want peace. They want justice, vengeance for what was taken from them. You're right, Alex finally says, his voice resolute. We won't settle for just a truce. We'll drive them to the edge until submission is their only choice. Cisari's eyes gleam with approval. Understood, Your Majesty. Shall I craft a response that maintains the appearance of considering their offer while we continue our advance? Yes, Alex replies firmly. Delay the talks. Keep them uncertain. In the meantime, we strengthen our defenses, consolidate our territories, and make sure every monster under our banner knows this is their home, a place where they are safe, but also a place that will fight for their right to exist. Cisari bows deeply. As you command, Your Majesty. I will see to it immediately. As she leaves, Alex's gaze shifts back to the map on the floating screen. The Ralthian kingdom is weakened, its people fearful, its leadership desperate. Yet, they still hold on to their arrogance, the belief that monsters are beneath them. A month passed by, and the once quiet cities of Alex's growing kingdom are now bustling with life. The air of each city are filled with the sound of hammers striking metal, saws slicing through wood, and the chatter of citizens eager for a future beyond survival. In Mizorn, Thanos' vision begins to take shape. Streets are widened, new buildings rise, and marketplaces expand. Merchants from various monster races set up shops, orc blacksmiths selling finely crafted weapons, goblin engineers displaying intricate contraptions, and alchemists brewing potent elixirs. Mizorn is becoming a city where anyone, no matter their race or background, can find purpose. In Veristand, the Academy of Arcane Arts stands as a towering structure of stone and enchanted crystal. Mages from different races, many of whom had once hidden their abilities for fear of persecution, now openly practice and learn. Young monsters practice incantations in designated training grounds, their eyes filled with hope and ambition. The streets hum with the presence of scholars, apprentices, and instructors sharing knowledge long forbidden. Dalan, the artisan's city, overflows with creativity. Artisans carve sculptures, weave enchanted fabrics, and forge weapons that hold intricate designs. Chapter 110, New Look of His City, Part 2. The forges blaze day and night, and the sound of hammering echoes through the streets. A blacksmith and an artisan argue playfully over the best forging techniques, drawing a small crowd amused by their passionate banter. Crafting guilds are established, and competitions of artistry foster friendly rivalry. In Kraz, the trade hub, the grand market teems with life. Stalls overflow with goods, fresh produce from monster farms, jewelry crafted from rare ores, and exotic beasts tamed by experienced handlers. Caravans from Mizorn and Veristan travel to Kraz, turning the roads into lifelines of commerce. Trade agreements are negotiated, and the human merchants from the three kingdoms coming regularly curious about this kingdom of monsters. The atmosphere is a blend of excitement and curiosity, with whispers of prosperity on everyone's lips. Inside his private chamber, Alex observes the system screen, his eyes fixed on the population counter as it finally reaches 500,000. A golden notification appears, and a surge of power rushes through him. His level unlocks, climbing to 500. Alex clenches his fist, feeling the strength coursing through his body. Finally, level 500. He murmurs, a small smile of satisfaction crossing his face. The experience he's gained from the battles, the growth of his kingdom, everything culminates in this moment. But then his gaze shifts to the requirement for the next level. Requirement to unlock level 600. 2 million citizens. His excitement fades, his expression falling. 2 million, that's a lot. Reclining back in his chair, Alex releases a breath. The growth so far has been significant, but reaching 2 million citizens will be a monumental challenge. Expanding territory, accepting more refugees, everything will have to be amplified. A knock on the door interrupts his thoughts. Your Majesty, may I come in? Recognizing Drea's voice, Alex straightens. Enter. Drea steps inside, a warm smile on her face. I brought you some tea, Your Majesty. You seem deep in thought. Alex chuckles softly, the tension easing. Just considering the future, Drea. There's still so much to do. Drea sets the tray of tea on the small table beside Alex. The fragrant aroma of herbs fills the room, soothing yet invigorating. She pours a cup and hands it to him with a gentle smile. Alex takes a sip, savoring the warmth. Drea, what do you think of the current state of the kingdom? Drea's expression turns thoughtful. Your Majesty, although it's still far from what our kingdom used to be, it's progressing rapidly faster than I expected. That's a testament to your brilliance and leadership. Alex chuckles, a hint of playfulness in his voice. It's good to hear. Drea laughs softly, her golden eyes glimmering. The people believe in you, they see the changes, the hope you've brought. That's not an easy feat, especially after all they've endured. Alex's gaze shifts to the floating screen, the ever-present system that monitors his kingdom. The weight of responsibility lingers, but so does the satisfaction of knowing their efforts are bearing fruit. Well then, Alex sets the teacup down and stands. I think it's time I get back to training. I need to familiarize myself with the new skills and spells I've unlocked. Drea nods, her expression encouraging. Of course, Your Majesty. Should I prepare anything for your training session? Alex waves a hand dismissively but with a grin. No need. I just need to see what these new Tier 5 skills can do. Besides, it'll be good to push myself a little. With a respectful bow, Drea watches as Alex leaves the chamber. After some time, Alex exits the training chamber, his steps light and a satisfied smile lingering on his face. The power of the Tier 5 skills still thrums within him. Each spell felt like wielding the force of a storm. The sheer destructive capability and control they grant are beyond any Tier 4 skills or spells. Tier 5. It's a whole different realm of power, he mutters to himself. I can see why beings who reach this level are considered legends in the Three Kingdoms. As the rush of excitement gradually settles, Alex straightens his posture and nods firmly. Next, I need to visit the cities one by one. I want to see how much progress Thano has made. Standing alone in his private chamber, despite all he's achieved, he realizes that the people know of their king, but have never truly seen him. His rule is felt through the laws, the protection, and the progress, but his presence remains a mystery, a legend whispered in the streets. Maybe it's time I change that, but not right now. Alex muses, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Alex activates his item, altering his appearance. His towering, imposing figure shifts, his features now those of a common hobgoblin. His skin turns a dusky green, his ears slightly pointed, and his build sturdy but not overly imposing. Dressed in simple, rugged clothes, he looks like any other hobgoblin.